welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we're going to talk about bees. Not the birds and the bees, just the bees this time. My guests are from the Colonial Beekeepers Association, Peter Ostrowski and Andy Westrich. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of people are afraid of bees. You know, like they might sting me, makes me nervous to be around them, but bees are really important to our ecology.
Well,
what do they do?
Well, the first thing is we're talking honeybees. And we try to differentiate honeybees out from the other bees. There's bumblebees and sweat bees and
carpenter bees,
carpenter bees. So honeybees.
Okay.
And honeybees, number one, go out, they're collecting nectar, they're gathering pollen to bring back to their net, their colony. And when they're out in the world, they're not going to sting. Honeybee will only
Unless
sting
you step on it.
to defend itself or to defend its colony. And so, in its foraging state, you can kind of shush them away and they'll say, all right, fine, I don't want to go to this flower, I'll go to the next flower, and they'll just leave you alone. So that's the big thing. If they sting, they die, and they know it. And so you don't have to worry about a honeybee necessarily, just going crazy and stinging. Very rarely does that ever happen. So
that's a myth. I think people are afraid.
People get honeybees mixed up with wasps and hornets.
Oh, they're bad. They're
Wasps and hornets aren't bees. They're wasps and hornets. It's a different type of insect. And honeybees are vegetarians, and wasps and hornets actually eat other insects. And so they can sting multiple times. And so they don't have to, you get one mad, a hornet can sting you as many times as it likes and fly away and live to see another day.
Well, so how can you tell by looking? What sets a honeybee apart from other kinds of?
Well, when you look at a honeybee, first off, they're more plump. So you're talking insect that's a 1/2 inch to maybe 5/8 inch long, about a 1/4 inch in diameter. But the big thing that sets them off is they're fuzzy. They have fuzz on their whole body. Their thorax and their abdomen are fuzzy. And whereas a wasp or a hornet has no fuzz, no hair whatsoever, so they're smooth skinned. So you see their exoskeleton, it's hard looking and it's shiny. Normally a wasp is going to be very narrow, so yeah, it could be that 5/8 of an inch long, but it's only going to be about an 1/8 inch wide, a very narrow body on them. So that's the big difference when you look at them. One's fuzzy, one isn't. And one's kind of plump and fat, and the other one is a little more skinny, torpedo-shaped. The easiest thing to do is go online and look a picture up, and you can see the difference and tell what you're looking at.
Now, when I was a kid, there were a lot of, and I will say I got stung a lot, usually on my feet because I stepped on them. But they were everywhere. There were a lot of bees. I don't really see that many bees now. What happened?
Well, there's a mite, a parasitic mite that, if you would, jumps species. And so that parasitic mite was introduced into the U.S. sometime in the early 80s. And, just like zebra mussels or other things that are just, come into the environment, they've gone through, and that mite, that parasitic mite, is kind of like a tick is to us. But it'd be a tick about the size of a dinner plate, and then but that mite now, that it's jumped species, is able to outbreed the bees, and it transmits diseases and basically killed all the feral colonies that were out there. So
so the wild honeybees are very endangered.
Right, they basically are gone.
I didn't realize
so
it was
all
that
the
bad.
feral colonies were gone probably in the mid-90s, into the early 2000s. So I mean, it took a period of time, about 20 years, but those mites, or that infestation, which is still with us, it basically has made beekeeping very difficult. And then, I mean,
so it's a struggle even for you guys to keep your own colonies
safe
and healthy.
Why do we need bees? Like, why are they important to our lives?
Well, in the state of Virginia, for instance, agriculture is probably the #1 or the largest industry or moneymaker that we have. And honeybees are very good pollinators. And so although we keep bees and we collect honey from them, it's their pollination that's important. And you know, a large portion of our food supply requires a pollinator. So, you know, when you're talking honeybees and you're talking food, one goes with the other. And
Anything
you know,
basically that flowers, right? All the fruits and berries and tomatoes and all those.
squashes, you know, pumpkins and things like that.
Orchards,
you know,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So that's why it's, you know, really important as far as the food supply goes, and it's good for the health of the plants too. So I mean, the plants require good, proper pollination for them to make their seeds, and so yeah, some of that is going to be food for us, but other stuff of that is going to be seeds that are for the reproduction of the plants. So it all works hand in hand.
Right, and honeybees are really the only insect to date, I guess, that's easily managed. They'll use bumblebees in greenhouses and stuff, and then you can have orchard bees and mason bees, and you know, you can buy these little kits to, you know, to have like natural pollinators in your yard and stuff like that. But for commercial industry or commercial farming, you know, the honeybee is a managed pollinator. So I mean, you know, and it can be transported and what have you, and moved from location. So they'll go from Eastern Shore to up to Maryland for, you know, blueberries or whatever. They can move them around.
Wow.
Or to the orchards, you know, in the western part of the state, and then to the Eastern Shore or wherever, and then bring those pollinators where they need to be.
Now, you guys, your club formed, how long ago do you think? You weren't quite in at the beginning, but...
No, I think originally, like I had said earlier, the Colonial Beekeepers Association was renamed probably in 2004, 2005. Our original name was the NASA Langley Apiculture Club. And the records, as far as I know, it goes back into the 70s. You know, we had, and so it was just some group of people that are interested in beekeeping, common interest.
A kind of small hobbyist group, at least, you know.
And it's still, now it's a large hobbyist
I was going to say, it's
but,
big,
but
much
it is,
bigger.
but you know, we are a group of small-scale beekeepers. We don't have any true commercial beekeepers in the club. We have some a lot of small-scale beekeepers. We have some sideline beekeepers who are you know, managing an operation or a business, but it is not a commercial size as far as it goes.
But you have how many members now?
250-ish.
Yeah, 240, 250, yeah.
So what fueled that increase in interest in bees?
Well, realistically, the start of it was colony collapse disorder about 10 years ago. Colony collapse disorder came in. There was a large upswell of media attention that the honeybees were dying.
So it's environmental.
Beekeepers at that time, beekeepers were used to losing, you know, 25% of their colonies, and then that jumped to 50-60% of their colonies. And these were commercial beekeepers that you know, were going out and doing the job of you know, pollinating, you know, the major portion of our food supply. And so that kind of ticked up, hey, there's trouble with the bees, and people started getting interested in it, and so they started asking questions. They would find clubs such as Colonial Beekeepers, and we would have classes and show people how beekeeping was. And we kind of got a turn that you would be able to keep bees in your backyard. You would have backyard beekeeping, so you would be able to only keep 2 hives or 3 hives in your backyard. And depending upon the locality that you live in, there's mostly ordinances that allow you to have 2 or 3 or 4 hives in your yard, depending upon the size of your yard. And so that changed. And so every year that changes, and people talk about, you know, this, and they find out that they can be beekeepers, that they can.
Yeah, so you live in Hampton,
They can
right?
do it, yes.
Are you in a subdivision, or you have a little
I
bit more
live up in
land?
North Hampton. I'm in a subdivision. You know, we have 1/3 of an acre, and I have bees in my yard, but I keep bees all over the city. I have some bees down in Wythe,
Oh, really?
yeah, I keep. Well, I get contacted by citizens and master gardeners and such, and I keep bees in their yards and for their gardens and things. And so it allows me to have more colonies than I want, and but at the same time, I don't have to have them all in my yard, which it would get kind of
Well, you
crazy.
wouldn't have,
So
they wouldn't have enough to eat. They'd have to
exactly.
go further
So
away.
then
All that kind of
exactly.
thing.
So they don't have to all be competing with each other. I can spread them out throughout the city. So
And then the club too. Now we just most recently we were afforded an opportunity down in Poquoson. The Poquoson Museum gave us a little site, and we've established what we're calling our learning bee yard. So we already have some beehives down there, and we're gonna, the goal is to have an area there where our club can go and we can have learning sessions, and then also for the public interaction. Public can just go up there. There's a fenced-in area, and they can, go up to the fence and watch the bees working in the hive, and then we'll eventually, do stuff with outreach for schools and stuff like that. And
It is a
right.
great thing for kids, and to be able to see, especially if you have something where there's a glass and kids can see what's going on.
And we have that in the Learning Museum.
the Virginia Living Museum
Yes.
has a brand new exhibit that we just put in.
Oh, cool.
Matter of fact, it was last Saturday that they unveiled it. And that is a learning beehive that is living, that they can go out and fly and come back in, but that we can manage that hive. But that hive is something where kids can come in, they can look at it, they can go find the queen and stuff like that. So
That's neat.
yeah, exactly.
Now, see, I wonder if the other thing that may have fueled interest is the sort of farm to table, eat local, know where your food comes from.
There
and
is a lot of
the concerns
that.
about processed sugars and fake sugars and honey in terms of health. And some people say it can even help with allergies because it has, your plant pollen
Pollens.
in it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess the whole idea with that is that there's always pollen in the honey, beekeepers like myself and Andy and a lot of our club members, we don't process honey that we harvest. It's just basically strained, and so it retains a lot of the pollen and what's in the hive. And so people with allergies, the thought is that you're ingesting something that you're allergic to, so it'll help with your immunity of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it has been scientifically proven, but I know a lot of people have become interested, in
And that's
honey.
kind of one of the
and also
things
it's not a
that- yeah,
processed
there's-
sugar. It is
There
very
isn't
different.
there isn't the scientific evidence that says this is going to. So it's not on like on our label. We can
Right,
put that on
right,
there.
right.
We can't. But at the same time, people do use it for that, and I imagine that I know I don't have problems with allergies, so it's
So if people are interested in beekeeping and want to get into the hobby, it's a little pricey to buy, not too bad, but to buy the hives and the trays and the suit and all that, or
Well-
do you not go that far?
Well, we do, but the first thing is we try to have people learn that they're going to start swimming in the shallow end of the pool first.
Okay, so you start small.
So we say come to the meetings and see what we got. Come to a yard day and learn about beekeeping. Put a suit on that somebody's going to let you use, and go in and see the bees before you spend any money.
Make sure you're going to be
You know?
comfortable
Exactly.
with that hobby
But
before you buy all that.
learn the process and get into bees first in somebody else's yard.
And as you said, you have now see, this is what I'm going to ask. If people are kind of interested in bees but want it for their pollination or want to help, you and maybe some other people do have hives elsewhere and might be willing to.
And we do that. I've got 2 yards this year that are like that. These are people that want bees, that think they might want to be beekeepers, but they're not sure. So we're going to put bees in their yard first. I'm the beekeeper. I'm taking care of it. While I'm there, they can come in and put a suit on or a jacket on, and they can go learn. But in the end, if they decide, I really don't want to do this, but I still want the bees there, well, fine, we leave the bees there. I'm still the beekeeper, and they have that. If they decide they want to be a beekeeper, well, then they've gone through the steps. They can, take a class if they want. We teach classes all the time. And, we teach a beginning beekeepers class every spring, and then we teach a fall class.
So that's the time you would get started, that you can move your hives and
well,
things
we
like
can
that.
move colonies anytime we want. That's one of the things, is honeybees are very manageable. So we can
They're like
move
happy
them.
little,
They have a very short
got a
memory.
purpose.
So, but it's easy. But again, if people want to get into it, there's definitely avenues. But I would really stress that, there's no sense in jumping into the deep end of the pool and spending $400, because you don't have to. You can start slow, learn about it, pick up a mentor, get somebody that's going to help you learn, and then the following year you kind of slide into it. And yeah, you're going to spend probably about $400 to get started. But in the end, a beehive is going to make anywhere between 50 and 80 pounds of honey.
Holy cow.
And
I didn't realize it
and
was that
bees
much.
make
We had
bees.
bees when I was in high school. My brother did all the work. I did not.
That's right.
But we lived in the country, and you had a lot of room, and it's kind of more what you did. I don't think people think of it in an urban environment. It's sort of like backyard chickens are now the thing.
Yep.
People are learning to
I think one
manage
thing-
some of their own food.
And I think one thing that you got to realize with bees, though, too, is that bees, like Andy said, bees, one of the things that bees do is make bees. And so it's kind of like, or I've been trying to think of a good analogy as we have more and more people come in, and I think it's almost like saying that, being a gardener and saying, okay, I'm going to plant some bamboo, or I'm going to plant some kudzu. And the thing is, you just can't leave that alone, all right? I mean, I think beekeeping is something that if you elect to get into it and have a hive, it's something that you're going to have to get involved in and manage, because if you don't, it's going to be just like that bamboo. It's going to be everywhere. So,
Okay, well, that's good to know. So if anybody out there is interested, how do we contact your organization? How do we come to a meeting?
If you go to the Colonial Beekeepers website, which is colonialbeekeepers.org,
Okay.
they can go to that website, and all the information for our meetings. We hold a meeting every third Tuesday of the month in York County, and they can get that information there. There's information for contacts for all the club officers and such, so that they can get that information, call somebody, and then that's their first step.
Right. There's information there on getting started in beekeeping, and links and stuff, and just all kinds of information on the website. We tried to put it all there, and we also have, I guess, on our club website, there's a link to our Facebook page. So if, I'm not really into that, but there's other people that are into that, right, into the Facebook, and there's a lot of current information, things that are happening, right now. With beekeeping and stuff. So,
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you guys for this introduction, and people who want to get interested know how they can get more information, and we need more bees.
One other thing, it is
okay.
swarm season. So
All right.
this is when the bees swarm. So if you happen to see a ball of bees in a tree or on a fence post or something, call a local beekeeper. Go to go to Colonial Beekeepers, and you can get the phone numbers for people who will come, and they'll pick those swarms up.
Right.
Okay, because you guys want some more, right?
We want them.
It's a good thing. It's not a scary thing.
Exactly.
They're not going to bother you, but we'd like to
Yep.
harness them and
Exactly right.
get them cared for. Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you for watching.